Hello there, class. It's Faisal coming at you with your May 8th class for English Grade 12 College. So, first things first, let's talk about Google Meetup, right, and our seminars that we're going to be doing in this class. So, the numbers are in, right? You guys have filled out the introductory form, and where is it? It says here that 19 of you are most available on Wednesday, and most of you, it seems, yeah, almost all of you even, prefer the afternoon for a meetup. So I am going to schedule our very first Google Meetup for Wednesday, May 13th, which is next Wednesday at 1 p.m. So for this one, it's not going to be a presentation or anything. It's just mainly going to be talking about the paragraphs and introducing ourselves, right? I sort of want to know who you guys are, right? I know a couple of your names from the previous quads, but most of you I don't know. So I would love to just see people, say hello, see who's here, and everything like that. So if May 13th is okay, if Wednesday is okay, I should say, this is going to be a weekly thing. What I mean by that is every Wednesday at 1 o'clock, we will do a meetup, right? And we'll talk about the things we're talking about in class, short stories, paragraphs, everything like that. And you will have that as part of your grade. Just so you know, participation in these meetups will be part of your oral communication mark, right? So you'll be participating in this meetup, and it will be, part of your grade, right? I'm not going to be marking each individual one. Rather, at the end of the quad, or rather, right before midterm and at the end of the quad, I'm going to give you a mark based on how much you contribute to the online discussions here. And those will be done based on all of them, right? Not just one. So it's not like every single meetup I'm going to be like, okay, this person talked a lot, 4 out of 5, that person talked not at all, 2 out of 5, that sort of thing, right? So I'm going to be looking at your overall performance here. Now, if you can't make it for Wednesday, right, do let me know, right? If there is like maybe a group of 4 or 5 of you that can't do Wednesday, and maybe you can all do Thursday, then maybe we can arrange a second meetup for then. But I'm hopeful that most of you, if not all of you, can make it for Wednesday, May 13th. Okay, so Wednesday, May 13th, 1 o'clock, that's our first Google meetup. Next is our paragraphs. So a couple of you have submitted them already, and I should, if you're, unless you submitted it within the last hour or so, I should have sent a response back with my feedback. So thank you to those of you that have submitted already. If you haven't submitted yet, please do so as soon as you can, right? I know I said this one isn't for marks because this is the practice run, but that doesn't mean you don't have to do it, right? This is an important thing for me to give you some feedback, right? Because, if I see something wrong with your writing now, you want me to tell you now, right? You don't want me to tell you when I give you a C or something on the paragraph assignment, right? So it's important. Send me the stuff in now so I can give you some tips. And thank you for who are all those that have done so already. Get used to writing these guys because next week my plan is to give you a 1, a 2, and a 3 of these to do. Right, you're going to be writing 3 of these paragraphs for me next week, right? So get used to writing them, right? And hopefully they won't be too challenging, right? But it is sort of the basics of basics, right? So that's what I would say for that. Submit these things through Google Documents if you don't mind. Some people sent in their stuff through Microsoft Word, and it's a little tricky for me to do my track changes corrections through Microsoft Word using the Google Classroom system. I guess Google Classroom kind of likes, to use its own Google stuff, right? You can just upload your stuff or copy and paste your stuff off of Microsoft Word into Google Documents before you submit, right? So not to worry there. All right. So if you can, please submit your things through Google Documents. if at all possible. Now, one other thing for today, right, is just a few more notes about grammar, specifically subject-verb agreement, which is probably one of the most important things that you should figure out in terms of your grammar. I like to call this the sort of last mistake, right? Because usually students who come from an ESL background have a lot of trouble with that because, certain languages have very different rules for subject verb agreement and certain languages have no rules at all for subject verb agreement. So let's talk about what subject verb agreement is. So it's a very simple thing. If you have a singular subject, it gets a singular verb. And if you have a plural subject, it gets a plural verb, right? Oh, and by the way, this only applies for the present tense, right? There's no, other than was and were, there's no subjective agreement for the past, and there's no subject-verb agreement for the future. But for the present tense, you've got things like this. The cat is running around the house, and the cats are running around the house, right? So if there's only one cat, you're going to say is. If there's more than one cat, you're going to say are, right? Very simple. I'm sure you guys knew that already. When it comes to subject-verb agreement, before we talk about the rules, I would say the thing to pay attention to most is the letter S, right? So over here, we have a sentence. The cats, more than one, jump on the desk, right? So in this case, the cats, there's more than one of them, and they jump with no S, right? And over here, the cat, only one cat, jumps on the desk, right? So there, it's a singular verb, and so therefore it has the S, right? So that's something to pay attention to when you are doing your own writing. If you've got a noun that's got an S on it, S at the end, then you want to look at what the verb's doing, right? If you're having it say, the cat's jumps on the desk, right, then that's clearly wrong, right? Because there shouldn't be those two sounds when you're writing that sentence. Okay, so that's something to keep in mind, but you want to be careful of weird situations. So, first, let's start with the easy stuff, right? There's the words each and every versus words like some and most, right? So, you might think that if you have a word like everyone, it's going to be everyone are, right? Everyone are going to wear a mask, or everyone are doing this, right? But the word everyone puts all of the people into a group, so it becomes singular, right? Same thing goes with words like each, also, right? So each person in the country wears a mask, right? I don't know why I wrote everything about masks, but that's how that part is going to work, right? So everyone is going to wear a mask, or each person in the country wears a mask, right? So those are all going to be singular, right? Because it puts everyone into one group. Meanwhile, some people are wearing masks, or most people wear masks, right? That stuff is plural, because if I say some people, well, it might be, if there's a class of 10, right? 7 people might be wearing masks, or 5 people might be wearing masks, right? So that's not everyone. It's 2 groups. Therefore, it's going to be plural. Are. Right? So that is how that part works, right? So the words like some and most are going to cause that kind of verb to happen, right? The plural verb. Now, one thing you want to be careful of, though, are modals. Modals are words like should or can or most or must that you put into sentences to attach a condition to the verb, right? And what they do to sentences is what they do to verbs, I should say, is they make it so that you use the plural form of the verb no matter how many, what kind of subject you have. So let me make that clear with an example. When you write this sentence, he runs in the park, right? He, one person, runs, right? So it's going to have the plural verb in the park. And then if I put it like this, though, and I make it he should run in the park, right, you'll notice that the S disappears. And that's because these modal words words like should or would or can or must, right? They are removing the singular verb, and it puts it back into the sort of default form, which is in the English language, uh, just the plural, simple plural version. So the same thing happens to everyone, right? Everyone runs in the park, right? That's how it normally goes. But if I put must, it's everyone must run in the park. We don't say everyone must runs in the park. So when you have the modal in between your subject and your verb, then your verb becomes plural, right? Even if your subject is singular. I hope that makes sense. Another confusing situation to watch out for is the words or and I forgot to put nor and nor, right? These can really be tricky when you run into them in your sentences. Let's look at these two sentences I've got here. Either the students or the teacher is going downstairs. And then I've got either the teacher or the students are going downstairs. So you'll notice that in the first sentence, it's is, and in the second sentence, it's are, right? And you might think to yourself, well, how can that be? Right? It's the same thing, right? It's just reversed order, right? Either the students or the teacher, or either the teachers or the students. So, the reason one is and one is are is because when it comes to a subject, a double subject that uses the word or, right, we look to the subject that is closest to the verb, right? So in the first sentence, it's teacher, so it's going to be is, and in the second sentence, it's students, so it's going to be are. Same thing happens for the word nor, right? So here I've got neither the students nor the teacher was going downstairs, and I've got neither the teacher nor the students were going downstairs. So the same thing is happening there, right? Where it becomes was when teacher is closest and were when students are closest, right? So it's a confusing word sort of rule, I know, right? It's the kind of thing that drives, especially newer English speakers, which I know most of you are, sort of drives you crazy. But that's how that part is supposed to work, right? So was for the first one, were for the second one. So remember, you look at the closest verb. But the other thing to remember is also that that only applies when you have either the students or the teacher, or neither the students nor the teacher, right? Or and nor. It does not apply to and, right? So if I have, let me just put this up top. If I have these two sentences, the students and the teacher are going downstairs, or the teacher and the students are going downstairs, it's always going to be plural. If it's and, it's always plural. Let me even put that right here. If it is and in a subject, it is always plural, right? Because that's just putting two things together, right? The reason, you sort of look to what's closest to the verb with the other one is it's a sort of mix of plural and singular, right? Because or and nor gives you either this one or that one, right? So that's why it's like that. Whereas and is putting the two things together. So don't mix those two up. Now, the most important thing besides all these little rules, is to know what you're talking about when it comes to your subject, right? Because it's easy to confuse yourself, right? Let's take this sentence. The man who has two cats is sitting at his desk. So, in that kind of sentence, it's easy to confuse yourself and think, oh, there are two cats, meow, and so therefore it's going to be are, right? But no, we don't want to confuse ourselves. The subject of that sentence is the man, right? Who is only a singular person, right? So therefore it's going to be is, right? So you want to be careful not to confuse the man for the cats and not to put a plural verb when you mean to make it singular, okay? So that's what I want you to watch out for when you're writing paragraphs for me. All right, can you do that, Dragos? I think she can do it, and if a cat can do it, you guys can too. All right, so let's wrap things up here. So for tomorrow, or not tomorrow, For Monday, please make sure you give me your practice paragraph, right? The one about what you're going to do after the coronavirus lockdown is all done, right? Some of you have already sent me your answers, which is great, but I would like to hear from all of you. And then starting on Monday, we're going to be starting the real stuff, all right? So I'm going to assign a paragraph a day, and you will be doing a fair bit of writing. Okay, so that'll be 3 paragraphs next week. So again, don't think, oh, the practice one, I don't have to do that. I don't need practice. Please submit it to me so that I can give you some feedback before you do the real stuff. And remember, mark it on your calendars. Wednesday, May the 13th at 1 o'clock. That's going to be our first meeting together on Google Meetups. So we'll be doing that too. All right, so that's it for this week. And on behalf of me and of Dragos and Uranos, who's hiding somewhere, thanks for being in the class. It's been a nice, easy first week, and things will be picking up starting on Monday. So I will see you then.